I had a request for a screencast on the answer to Chapter 12, Tap 4, so let me tend to that right here. So we're manipulating data in this table, which presents income by quintal for the United States for various years, 1980, 1990, 2000, 2009, and these are average incomes for each quintil. And a quintil is just, we line everybody up by income. The bottom quintil is this number here, 15,886 is the average income for the lowest 20% of income earners households in the United States. Then the next group, the next 20%, the next fifth, the next fifth, and then the top fifth. And when you do this problem, you have to be careful just to average over the 5 quintils. I guess that's right there. We don't want to, this top 5% is interesting just because it gives you a sense of where that top 5% is. And a lot of the income growth in these decades is concentrated not just in the top 5%, but really in the top 1 or even half of 1% of income earners. Anyway, so that's the mistake students want to make, is they just blindly take the average of all 6 numbers in each column when you only want the first 5 numbers in each column. So anyway, to take a mean, you just sum over the 5 numbers in this case and take the average. You take that sum and divide by 5. So in the case of 1980, take 15,886 plus 34,588 plus 52,251 plus 72,492 plus $122,054, and you add those up and divide the resulting sum by 5, and you get that average, which turns out to be 59,454. You do the same for 2009, and you get 78,534. And to get the percentage change, you do the following percent change. That's a delta for change. You take the 2009 value, 78,538, and divide it by the base value, 59,454, and you subtract that by 1, and that gives you the incremental change over the base, and you multiply that by 100 to get the percent change. And when you do all that, you find that you get a positive 32.1% increase in average income. The problem in your actually this this problem, I changed this tab, the last parts of this tab, to be different from what's in the homework, but this one is in the homework. The ratio of the mean income received by the bottom quintile to the mean income in the entire population. There we're just taking that mean income of the bottom quintile, 15,886, and dividing it by the population mean that we calculated in Part A, which was 59,454. That's for 1980. And then we do the same for the top quintile in 1980, and you find that $122,054 divided by 59,454. Those answers are respectively, the bottom quintile makes an average of 27.1% of the population average. The top quintile makes, oh, I see I have a typo there. Sorry about that. The answer key is supposed to be 205.3%. I've just now noticed it's 2005.3. I must have leaned too hard on that zero figure. 2.053 is the proportion. 205.3% is the right ratio. I didn't catch that till just now. They ask you to do the same for 2009. The methodology is the same. You're dividing the one figure by the other. I should say you're dividing the mean income of the bottom quintile by the mean income for the population. You're doing that for the top quintile as well for 2009. That gets you through Part C. And Part D is new, and Part E as well. Part D is a ratio that's often used to just get a thumbnail sketch of income inequality when you're comparing figures across different countries or across time. It's not as good as the Gini coefficient methodology that you might have run across if you've studied this carefully, but it's not too bad for a thumbnail sketch. And so when you take the ratio of mean income of the top 20% to the mean income of the bottom 40 for 1980 and 2004, all I'm doing to get the mean income of the bottom 40% is just averaging the income for the bottom 20% and the second 20%, and taking 122,054 and dividing by that average, which was about 25,000, give or take, and you find that ratio went from 483.6% to 724.1%. So quite a dramatic rise in income inequality. And then what problems for the economy does this pose? Well, we have an economy that's generally market-oriented, and that's because we have a widespread belief in the notion that letting markets distribute goods and services in the economy leads to more wealth for everyone. But if we are in a situation where our system is bringing great wealth to the top 1%, but stagnation or even a decline in the rest of the population, well, that consensus, the political consensus in favor of that way of organizing things can erode. And in developing countries, we see revolutions. And we're very, very far away from that in the United States. But you could easily imagine, and indeed I would argue that we're starting to see public support for a lot of laws that would reduce the degree to which markets are allowed to distribute goods and services in the economy. And this comes with the danger of shrinking the economic pie for everybody. And if we have a more equal distribution of a smaller pie, it's hard to see how anybody benefits from that. So there's a real danger there. And it's no accident that some of the richest people in the country are the most ardent advocates for measures to improve the egalitarian, the equality of income distribution. You see Bill Gates and Warren Buffett actually at the forefront of arguing in favor of the estate tax, and there are a couple of leaders in arguing for measures to increase income equality and measures that don't interfere with the market orientation of the overall economic system. A subtle point, but in the United States, we spend a relatively small share of GDP on police, and that's because most people buy into the system. And when people buy into the system and believe rules are fair, they generally follow those rules. So you have to spend less money on enforcing those rules. But when that belief erodes, then you have to spend more on police, and that reduces the quality of life. I remember going to Spain as a college student, and back in the 80s there were Guardia Civil at every corner. These guys in these menacing hats and uniforms with these huge machine guns. It was it was just a few years after Franco died, and it was jarring, and that level of police surveillance is uncomfortable, to say the least. In the social fabric, it's when we believe the system is against our interest, it reduces our quality of life. We're bitter and angry and unhappy. So there's a lot of problems associated with with increasing income inequality.